Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. In this episode we're going to be looking at copyright and making sure that you know where all your materials actually come from before you release them or publish them online. If you like the films that we're producing, please subscribe to the channel and click on the notifications so you can find out when the latest video is being released. So this has been a very fast week for me. It's been very intensive. I have been working several really late nights and I have edited together a little 17-minute sort of documentary that required a lot of images, and it's led me towards having to think a bit more about copyright and copyright-free material. So a lot of the images used on that particular video required me to use the likes of Pixabay and Pexels Video to source images, moving and still images that I could create movements on in Premiere to illustrate what was being said in the text. It also required me to create a couple of 3D graphics, one of them including the Voyager 2, which I managed to find a model on NASA, and the other one I needed to see a fetus, and to create that I used Make Human. I then imported that into Blender 2.79b, the current version that is active, and started to really get into it. I was quite pleased with the bone structure inside the model that came from the Make Human, and got into the animation of the hands and the mouth of the character just to give the sense of movement. It was just kind of a nice little bit of movement I wanted to add in. And then I started to render, and at 1:45 in the morning I'd left it to render and thought, great, that'd be fine. And when I got up the following morning I discovered that it only rendered out 20 frames as opposed to the 120 that I was looking for. And then I remembered that when bringing stuff into the likes of Blender, there's a slight glitch in Make Human, which means it stops rendering every so often. So I was a bit disappointed with that because I thought, well, I've got another few hours to get this rendering done. Anyway, as it so happened, I thought to myself, well, let's see what 2.8 would allow me to do as opposed to 2.79 that I was using. And I started to render and suddenly found that the EV version of rendering rendered out pretty quickly and was quite surprised. Now the downside was that I'd used Blender's own rendering system inside 2.79, and the problem I encountered then bringing it into 2.8 was that that renderer no longer is available. So all the lighting techniques that I'd used to develop the piece were gone. So I had to start sort of from scratch. The animation was still there, which is good. With Make Human, the model coming in, I'd saved the Blender file a couple of times and then found that on the initial opening that the video stopped working. On the second occasion, it actually rendered all the way through. It took about 6 seconds to render a single frame as opposed to 6 minutes to render a single frame. So that was quite good because I was able to sit there for 15 minutes and watch it render out. So I played around with a few settings here and there, played around with the lighting, had a sort of film effect, and used the shallow depth of field by having F2 on the camera, and that gave me a nice kind of fuzziness. Once I'd rendered it all out, I then brought it into After Effects and added a few effects in there. It only lasted 4 seconds. I didn't have time to correct any deformities of the character. I set the camera up in a way that you didn't see those deformities, and it kind of worked for what I wanted to do. I had a couple of midwives have a look at it to give their approval as well, so that helped because I know a few of those as well. So let's go back to copyright. One of the difficulties that I was having with the copyright side of things was that we needed to have an image of Pope St. John Paul II, who had visited Ireland in 1979. Now, as I was looking at a lot of the images, there's a film coming out fairly soon, which has a lot of archive footage, but all of the photographs that I could find, except for 2, the agencies that were using them were charging like £350. So with the new laws that are coming in Europe, it is wise to be cautious with what you actually use for your video productions, and to make sure you can source the images and video and know exactly who owns the copyright, and whether it's using the Creative Commons 0 or one of the other license agreements is under that allows you to use it. Now this isn't really a commercial piece, it's just something that's going to be screened at Wembley. You still need to make sure that you own the copyright to everything that's going on. So this is something I had to give a talk recently about to a load of students, about why it's so important to know who owns the copyright of the materials you're using. It's okay if you go out there and film something yourself, you own the copyright. If you're producing the music, you own the copyright. Luckily, YouTube allows you to use their music library for your videos that you're producing on YouTube. So that's a good thing. I tend to use that quite a bit. If I don't use that, I then create my own material using MuseScore and using a keyboard, and then bringing it into the likes of GarageBand. Sometimes I use Audacity just to sort of tidy up a few little bits and pieces. And then the other package I use is Auditions, which is part of the Adobe package. I was publishing a book for somebody a few years ago, and they wanted 25 images of a local area. They had used some of these images previously, and I discovered that, well, they didn't know where the images had come from. So basically we had to try and find out where those images came from. They'd been used in a calendar, and those people didn't know where the images came from. And then I suddenly found out that these images had come from the National Museum of Ireland, and with a cost of £250 each. So if you had 25 of those, that was going to cost you £6,250. Whew, that's a big bill. So it's very important to make sure that you know where all your images have come from, that you source them, that you know who the originator is, and if necessary pay the licenses that are due on those things. Otherwise, you as an editor can actually end up getting into hot water, and that could put you out of business, which you don't want. I hope this video has been useful. There's a lot of information in there, I know, but it's something that I've just come across in the last kind of week that I've had to deal with quite a bit, just to make sure that my client was protected and I was protected. Thanks for watching. And if you like what I'm talking about in these videos and you'd like to learn a little bit more about video production, why not leave a comment below and I'll respond in a future video as soon as possible. Please subscribe to the channel if you like the information I'm giving, and also click on the bell for notifications, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.